Here's the Smithy.
Hi, this is Phoebe.
That's another dating podcast.
Yeah, it is yet another one. But this is the best one out of all of them, clearly.
Yeah.
What? We gotta do some endorsements.
Yeah, we're the best.
People...
We've just started with the best, pinnacle of podcast.
Go forward with hope. You gotta walk with hope, Neil. That's the way it has to be.
Oh, I'm entirely hopeful. I've got that confidence that in 6 to 8 decades we might be there. It's good.
I hope in 8 decades I'm dead because I'd be like 119 or something, and I really don't want to be that old.
Oh, you know what? That episode we did on my 170th birthday, I could not believe that OkCupid became bigger than Amazon. It was fantastic.
Well, to be fair, Jeff Bezos has just pumped millions of dollars into anti-aging research and modifying DNA so that we don't age. Of course
he has. That's like the Walt Disney head in the cooler thing, isn't it? Sort of again.
Yeah, if anybody has ever been the embodiment of having too much money in a midlife crisis, it would be Jeff Bezos. With penis-shaped space shuttles and pouring money into anti-aging. He's like the poster child for the midlife crisis. In any case, welcome to another dating podcast.
Yes, welcome everybody.
As you can tell, we're not very serious people most of the time, so hopefully we'll get some sense out of each other at some point, but the intro does not seem to be the place for that.
No, so maybe it might be prudent, in fact probably essential for us to actually introduce who we are, what we want to do, and hopefully what we plan to do in the future.
Yes, this is the part that I'm struggling with, talking about identity crises. I talk a lot, but when I'm supposed to briefly introduce myself, I have trouble editing myself.
Okay, I'll give you a challenge. Imagine you are writing a dating profile, but the dating app stroke theme of said dating app profile is that you have to present a podcast opening. Go.
Okay, but see, in all of the dating apps, you could tell I'm argumentative. In all of the dating apps, there's certain parameters that you can just put in a tick box that you don't actually have to then write out. I love profiles that right under the name, like Joey, it says, "Hi, my name is Joey." I'm like, yeah, I got that far from it saying Joey right under your under your profile picture. You don't have to repeat yourself.
What gave it away?
Exactly. So anyway, my name's Phoebe. I'm a 30-something. Let's not dwell on it. I live in the East Midlands, and I'm currently single and dating, much to my chagrin. But oh well, here we are.
Hey, that was perfectly adequate. I would, I would message you if I saw that on my invented dating site. I'm sorry. I'm Neil, aka Smithy. I also live in the East Midlands. Currently single, not dating at the moment, but through myriad experience in the past, I have experienced various apps, conceits regarding dating. And whilst I don't consider myself to be very qualified in the sense of I couldn't write a thesis on it, I think I can talk about it pretty well. So I guess that's kind of the theme of the podcast. We just talk about dating and apps. And
exactly. Yeah, I think, obviously you and I are friends, and we share stories, experiences, where our life is at the moment. And we realize that both of us have quite a lot of things to say about dating, the world of dating, relationships in general. We agree on a great many things and disagree on even more things. Both share a love for content creation. So here we are, seemed like the perfect match. Ooh, dear.
I don't know. I think you disagree with me more, because, I like...
we already established that I'm argumentative. So I will often just disagree for disagreement's sake.
Yeah, I know, but got to give them a bit of sizzle on that steak, a bit of conflict. They've got to have it. No, I'm just kidding. No, absolutely spot on. I agree with everything you just said. So I guess really this pilot episode is us kind of getting this into the world and saying, hey, look, we want to talk about dating apps and dating in general. And
yeah.
yeah.
So obviously we chose dating apps, kind of talking about that as a theme for the pilot episode to kind of get into it. Generally speaking, we're hoping to have a main theme for every episode. That's going to be kind of the main segment. We have a few ideas for that, but then there'll also be recurring kind of side segments with fun little games, fun hypotheses we pose to each other, maybe just hills we'll die on, just fun little things that are I guess a side dish to the main course.
Well, more sand dunes that we're dying, because I have several, you know. My desert of inadequacy, that, as I like to call it. But anyway, we'll get into that. So, okay, let's go. Dating apps.
Yeah, so dating apps, yeah, obviously, you know, they're the big thing, more so than ever before. People are using dating apps, you know, with the coronavirus pandemic having sparked record number of people signing up to all the various dating apps. It seems to be the main way of meeting people, and we want to talk about some pros and cons, I guess, our personal experience with some of these, and maybe even in the end we'll give a final verdict which one each of us prefers.
Yep. I think that's a good way to go. I mean, I have to preface this by saying I'm not currently dating, so a lot of my experience will be from the past, not so recent. However, I know a lot of people that use these apps. I've got a lot of stories, which I'm not going to go into too much today, but you know, there is a lot of acquired, curated anecdotes, that sort of stuff. So I think we can probably do it quite effectively. I guess what I want to say is this would probably be a key point for me, and I'm probably revealing this a little bit too early, but I have actually only ever really met anybody, like romantically wise, via a dating app or online. That has always been my thing. Not by choice, that's just by happenstance. That's how it's gone. So I've never sort of, again, I don't know if you've done the same, but I've never like met somebody in a bar or, you know, kind of got closer to anybody in any other way. Well, I have, but not in a romantic way. So it's very, very much, I'm not pigeonholed to that. It's just how my life sort of panned out. So hopefully it'll be quite interesting to see the two sides of that. So I don't know about you, but I mean, is that the same for you, or?
No, actually the opposite. But I think in later episodes, it'd be really interesting to kind of dig into the whys maybe as well, why that is, or what type of people prefer meeting online versus in real life. So no, I actually have to say that prior to maybe my last long-term relationships, when that broke up, after that, most people that I've met were through dating apps. Prior to that, so all through my 20s and early 30s, I've met people in real life, and if anything ever developed rather than online or through apps.
No.
I kind of dabbled in it in like my late teens, early 20s, where I did meet some people through chat rooms, but the majority of my experience has been real life, if I ever did get together with somebody. So that's not to say that I haven't used the apps quite extensively over kind of the last 3.5 years, but I don't have experience with these dating apps prior to, let's say, 2017-ish.
Fair enough. That makes perfect sense. So I guess a good starting point for, at least I have a question that I believe would be a good starting point. Let's just say just pure dating apps, because I want to go into a little bit later some other, maybe pre the dating app fad, maybe there was other ways that we both use, but I want to sort of, that's probably going to be further down the line. I want to ask you, in terms of actual apps, so, you know, the kind of things you'd have on your phone, you know, you've got specifically your profile for dating, yay, nay, all that kind of stuff that you get on the different sites. What would have been your first experience, or what would have been your first app? And then we can kind of use that as the initial app to kind of summarize, I guess.
I can't remember of the two which one I installed first, whether it was Tinder or OkCupid. It was both of those, I think, that I used at first. Those would be the first ones that I installed. How about you?
For me, see, this is a really strange one. I can't actually remember. The only reason why I think this may have been the first one that I used, and this is just pure dating apps, this would have been like 2010, is going to be Zoosk, which was actually my friend had recommended. So just the website. That this was before it was an app. This is before I even had a smartphone. I didn't get my first smartphone until late 2010. So I want to say Zoosk, and then Plenty of Fish shortly after. No, it was Zoosk. I'm going to say Zoosk because in my memory, my first few dates or contacts, I always associate with Zoosk.
I have never even heard of that. So if you want to explain to people if it still exists,
it still exists. It's pretty much your run of the mill kind of dating site. In fact, the version that I used way back when was a very, very simplified version. The profiles were very small. They did all sorts of little tricks to stop you from revealing your phone number, your email address, all sorts of crazy stuff. They'd have to review your profile, so they'd remove stuff. It was actually quite sinister. They were trying to keep people hooked in to kind of buy these extra credits, extra views, that sort of stuff. I think they were probably one of the first places that I came across that. So it was literally a very short profile, no more than 500 words, picture, location, looking for men, women, whatever, that kind of stuff. And it was just, actually, I am actually amazed I met anybody on there with how restrictive it was in kind of trying to take your experience out of Zoosk. You know, when you get to the point of, okay, let's exchange numbers, let's exchange emails. Yeah.
Well, I suppose at the time, there wasn't all that much competition, was there?
Oh, no, there were quite a few other dating apps around at the time. I think Match.com was around at the time. I think eHarmony was around. I just think this one, with it being free, it was 100% free and very, very easy to set up a profile. I guess they were trying to get in on that racket, but only seeing the money and the success and using that. However, it was great because you could easily get around the profile issues because you could just, instead of putting an @ you just literally put the word @ or put spaces in where there should have been dots, that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. And by the time they'd reviewed your profile, because they would regularly review your profile, they would go through and try and remove everything. It was almost like living in North Korea. It was so strange. You could sometimes, if you'd got in touch with somebody and exchanged enough messages, you could probably get to the point where you wanted to, take it further. I guess it was just a little bit of a, it was a minefield.
Well, I guess also if actually profiles were reviewed and moderated, that speaks to either the service not being overwhelmed with users or them having a really decent sized moderation team, because Lord knows moderation is nigh absent on things on the biggest apps these days. I mean, the amount of bot profiles that you get on any regular day on any of the biggest apps is tremendous. I mean, I try to report people who use like celebrity pictures and things like that, which is just so obvious. I mean, just in the past week, I ran across Chris Hemsworth and Orlando Bloom.
Well, it could have been then. It could have been. I don't believe that you live in Bognor Regis. I'm sorry.
So anyway, so at least that's encouraging that Zoosk actually did enforce some of their rules, even if it did feel a bit like North Korea. Be that as it may, it doesn't appear on our current list of the big wigs. So it's still
actually going.
It's still kicking around.
But what's interesting about it is that you talk about the moderation. The moderation was not there for the benefit of the users or to stop toxic content, because a lot of the stuff that people would put in the profile that I would absolutely say would get removed didn't. They only removed like email addresses and contact details and links and stuff like that. That's the only thing they ever removed.
Okay, so it's mainly privacy things.
It was. I think it was privacy, but mainly they just didn't want you to move away. It was that blatant. Luckily, it has improved over the years. Oh, God, back in 2017, when I was on the dating sites, it was back again. It was a completely different site by then. It was like a cross between OkCupid and POF. So there was some kind of compatibility.
POF. Already using the shorthand for Plenty of Fish. Okay.
So that's what I know it as, POF. I've always known it as POF.
Well, okay. So in any case, so we've established they did some moderation that might do other dating apps well, but I think in terms of, obviously integration these days, lots of these big apps allow you to integrate, let's say, your Instagram account, for example, or link to your Spotify playlists and things like that. So they're a lot less concerned about people kind of mentioning, oh, find me on Kik, or, find me on Insta,
they're not that bothered anymore.
But
But what's interesting to me is, what's very interesting to me, certainly from a point of view of, and this is something we'll go over when we mention your beloved Poff shortly, I'm sure. Sorry. Is that...
Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert. Yeah, big spoiler. She loves it. Oh, God, she loves it. It's that, for me, observing as a guy, and this is going to be a really big thing, that it's not... I'm not trying to suggest there's any sort of... in the real world, the gender is, there's one's better than the other, none of that stuff. But when you get to the ecosystem of dating, unfortunately, and you can talk to this when you talk in a moment, is that as a guy, my experience is 100%, beyond 100% different to yours, just in terms of how messages are received, how they're sent, and that would always shape my view of a platform. So, and I'm gonna dangle this bone now. Plenty of Fish for me is very old schoolish in that, although it does have the integrated things now of, there is a swipe mechanic in there somewhere if you choose to use it. But for me, it has that thing of you go on a profile, you send someone a message, they message back. That's it. You know what I mean? That's how that to me is always been my view of dating sites in terms of how I would use them, and to me it makes logical sense. But I don't get 500 creepy messages a day. I don't get...
It's not even so much that they're creepy. It's just that they're time-sucking redundancies of messages.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, we can talk about the percentages. I think there's been studies out there, anthropological studies and whatnot as well, that kind of confirm that 80% of females will only message 20% of the guys on any of these dating apps. So then 80% of guys on these dating apps never get any responses at all, and obviously that's hugely frustrating. But on Plenty of Fish, because there isn't a matching mechanism that really means anything and anyone can message anyone, if I actually spend my time replying to every single one of these messages, 90% of which have never even read my profile, which I did go through the trouble of filling in, then I would literally never do anything else. That would be pretty much, other than my full-time job, how I would spend every single evening. And that is just a massive time waste. So if men on Plenty of Fish actually did spend time reading my profile and responding to anything that's on there, and trust me, it is not long and it is very specific. It ticks off things like red flags that anyone would go like, oh, okay, I want this in my life. She doesn't want it, hence we're a bad match. If they actually had that courtesy of doing it, fine, I would take the time to respond. Since they clearly don't, and half the messages that I get are, hey, how are you? Or would love to chat, you're so pretty, I cannot be bothered. And hence, I hate that app. I hate it. Because there's so much riffraff around. And anybody can message me.
See, I told you.
None of it is any good.
She's blinded by her love stroke hatred. No, it's a perfectly reasonable stance to have. And this is what I mean. It's quite interesting because from my point of view, my experience is completely different. Because I'd guess I'm one of those guys that doesn't get responded to 80% of the time. My experience is very, very few and far between when I was using dating apps that I would get a response or even a message, which, it's fine. That's just how it was.
But may I also gander the guess that when you do choose to message a female, you probably put a little bit more effort in than saying, hey, how are you?
Oh, God, yeah, because this is the other thing. My anxiety over that message was kind of another thing of, it would be another brick wall to not send a message. If I didn't feel like I could say anything even, meaningful, remotely interesting, or relevant to that person, I wouldn't bother, because for me, that would be another buffer zone of saying, well, if I'm not able to even send a first-time message to this person, then clearly that's a sign that we probably won't really... I mean, I could be wrong, but based on my interpretation of their profile, if I can't think of anything to say, I'm not just going to say, sup, or hey, or how's you? Because I hate getting those messages. Absolutely hate it.
Exactly. So in that sense, you're already doing much better than 90% of the guys who message me on Plenty of Fish. So, which obviously then explains why when you do send those messages where you've thought about what somebody has written in their profile, you do tend to get a response. Whereas I'm pretty sure that most of these guys who message me on Plenty of Fish never get a response because they send meaningless pseudo messages like the ones that I get to pretty much anyone.
Yeah.
Any female that catches their eye.
You'd think that. I very rarely got responses. It's just a vicious circle. I very rarely got responses. Even when in my own mind I believed I sent quite a nice message or quite I don't know, I'm trying to find the words, quite a relevant message, I guess, is as delicately as I can put it. But then I have to look at it from the other point of view. I cannot fathom how many messages that person must have gotten that day, just to open their inbox and go, woof, you know what I mean? That's fine. I don't get heads up about it. My ego is not such that, oh God, this person I never met didn't message me back. It's just,
Yeah. Well, I don't want to pretend that I am getting dozens and dozens of messages every single day. Plenty of Fish also seems to be one of those apps where you can totally tell that if I've been online in the app, so if I've opened it and had it open for an hour or something, even in the background, my messages increase. Things like Tinder or OkCupid, Hinge or Bumble, it doesn't seem to matter all that much if you've been online recently or not. Like how many matches you get seems to stay relatively consistent whether you're online or not. So Plenty of Fish clearly has a thing where it pushes people who are online to the top of the list.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And that is just basic sort of scientific mechanics that obviously more people that are online now, because obviously they're at the top of the searches, are more likely to get messages. Actually, what I did want to raise is, and we will go back to this because this is going to be this is OkCupid, because that, when I was using the dating sites back in 2017, I would say was my preferred app. I liked how it worked. I liked the profile layout, and although that matching percentage thing could be a little bit skewed badly sometimes, because some people that maybe answered 10 questions could have a 90% match with you that's answered 400 or something. Other than that, for me, it was a natural progression of, see someone's profile, you like the profile, I send them a message. But am I correct in thinking they have introduced the mechanic now where you have to kind of match, you have to like each other? I mean, you can view the profile, but you have to like each other first before you can send a message. So you can message somebody, but they have to like you before they can read it or something like that?
Yes. Yeah. So that is, you can like someone and send them a message, but they won't see that message unless they have liked you back.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. It's so far out of the loop in terms of that particular site, just in terms of,
I mean, a spoiler alert, because obviously we said like maybe we'll give a final verdict. But yeah, it's still my preferred app. Mainly, I don't pay attention to the match percentage really at all, because obviously, it depends on how many questions you've answered and which ones you've set as being really important, so essentially deal breakers for you and things like that. And some of the questions are really also so meaningless,
vague, yeah.
In a way that, the percentage never matters to me. The reason I still like OkCupid is that because of the way that it's set up, it is still way more encouraging of people actually completing a profile. Some people take that to the extreme and write an entire dissertation on their profile, which I think is overkill. But as opposed to Tinder, for example, where hardly anyone bothers to put more than like 20 characters about themselves, OkCupid is kind of encouraging people to actually put something about themselves, their likes, their dislikes, their deal breakers, what they are about, and things like that. The app did struggle last year a lot. Since then, they've made improvements around that mechanism that you mentioned, of because there was a way to review people who had liked you and left you a like message, but that's gone now because it used to break the app horribly as well. So now you actually have to match with someone to message. But one of the main things that I also really appreciate about the app is that it's one of the biggest mainstream apps that is very LGBTIQ plus friendly. So in terms of the gender and sexuality settings and what you're actually looking for, it has way more options than any of the other ones. And I hugely appreciate that, because lots of people may not want to go down the very niche app route that who are specifically developed for LGBTIQ plus communities. So I hugely appreciate how much work OkCupid has put into literally, putting every type of gender and every type of sexuality and orientation on their normal drop downs, and you can select more than one as well. So big thumbs up for that one, because
even back then,
most of the other big wigs are what I tend to call heteronormative hell.
Yeah. Even back then, that's something I noticed very much in with OkCupid. So back in 2017, I need the Hovis theme tune for this. So that's a bit of a dated English reference there. If you don't get that joke, ladies and gentlemen, back in 2017. It was one of the first apps I noticed this as a thing. So, for example, I went on a date with someone who's now a very good friend. She identifies as oh God, what did she identify as? But she's since changed what she identifies as. She identifies as pansexual. And obviously I was aware of that then, but you would very rarely see that kind of designation that allowed you to have that designation on any sort of dating app. It was either, I'm straight, bisexual, heterosexual. That's it, Yeah. So that was interesting, and that was very welcome.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with that as well. And OkCupid is still really good for that. So without it needing to go into kind of the niche things, you can obviously set that you're only looking for, let's say, non-monogamous relationships, and then it will only show you people who are also looking for the same thing, which is really nice because it kind of gets rid of a little bit of the preamble that you often have to go through on other apps. So let's say you match with somebody on Tinder or whatever, and then, you're like 15 messages in. Nobody even gets 15 messages in on Tinder, whatever. You get your 3 messages in. Somebody says hi, somebody else says also hi. And then it goes, oh, by the way, first thing I have to mention is I'm into ethical non-monogamy. Are you too? No, I'm not. So already you've wasted like 15, 20 minutes of your life when it could have just been on the profile, or they could have just not shown each other's profiles.
And I think we will go on to Tinder in more depth, but I want to say half and half at the moment because there is a lot more to say about OkCupid. But the other thing that I do prefer about specifically Tally, get off the keyboard, my cat, come on, she's broken my keyboard. Specifically about that is that on OkCupid, that I've always appreciated, and they're not the only ones that do it, but based on everything else we've just said, all the sort of little things they put in, the fact that they put the profile front and center is important to me, whereas Tinder doesn't. Tinder really doesn't.
It's a picture.
It's just a picture, and although you can put a profile on there, although Tinder, yes, they are technically, they did invent the whole concept of the swipe and matching and stuff like that. That sort of very positive. I'm under no illusion why they did it. I don't think it was just for that reason, but that very positive buffer that prevents people from actually messaging you out of the blue, unsolicited or anything like that, is then kind of offset by the fact, well, how often do people actually read the profile before they swipe?
Exactly, which is obviously, the issue on Plenty of Fish as well. Hang on, my cat now also has complaints about the service in this establishment. She keeps going outside, but it's raining. Anyway, so yeah, no, definitely. That's what I appreciate about OkCupid as well, is that the profile really is front and center.
Yeah.
Not absolutely everyone does the effort of filling it in properly or filling it in any detail. There are some that are quite short, or my most hated profile of Ask Me. Like, no. It's not the point.
That's on every goddamn thing.
That's for a later episode, maybe, of do's and don'ts of your dating profile. But yeah, so OkCupid is very much kind of that. Even on first glance, you see the picture and you see some basic stats all already underneath the picture, and based on just that, you decide whether you want to see the full profile or not. But it's more than just a picture. But yeah. I'm perfectly happy leaving it there with OkCupid and moving on to Tinder.
I think if I'm honest, I think we have segued quite hard into Tinder, so let's just keep that going.
Yeah, so obviously Tinder is the prototype for what I call heteronormative hell. I have never, ever, ever in my entire life met anyone on Tinder. I've never even exchanged meaningful messages with anyone on Tinder. And it's not for a lack of trying, but more so than anything, it feels to me very much judge a book by its cover. And I think lots of people almost use it in a waste some time gamified kind of way. Oh, just do a bit of swiping. I don't think anybody actually takes it very seriously.
Well, I've got sort of a varying degrees of stories about Tinder. So my experience of Tinder is exactly what I envisaged it would be based on stories. So I have friends. I'm not going to name names. I'm going to keep them, or have known people, should I say? I don't think I'm friends with these people anymore. That essentially use it as a meat market to find people to sleep with on a whim, and it does have that reputation. Everyone knows it has a reputation, and for good reason. And for the most part, in terms of stories I've heard, it absolutely lives up to that reputation. Prime example, I've probably, when I was using it way back when, in 2017, I think I spoke to two people, literally both went the same way. I think one person I thought I was, vibing with quite well. She's like, "Oh yeah, let's meet up for a coffee later." I was like, "Oh cool, okay." And then she messaged me back like 2 hours later. She says, "Oh, I'm all right now. I sorted myself out earlier. I don't really need to meet you now." And the implication I got from that was that she was just wanting a hookup.
Yeah, no, I mean, in my circle of acquaintances, I definitely know that there are people who are using Tinder for more than just casual, and who actually have met someone who they then entered into a relationship with. However, yeah, it just doesn't cater to how I generally select anyone I'd want to be with. While I wouldn't deny that there has to be some sort of physical attraction, that doesn't mean I'm after the most beautiful in little speech marks, beautiful, whatever, by the society standards, whatever. But yeah, I'm just very much opposed to the judging a book by its cover. And yeah, I don't think Tinder will ever rid its reputation of being for casual more than anything else. They also haven't, in what I can see, changed anything about the app in quite a while. Essentially, it seems to me they're quite happy with how it is and how it is being used.
Yeah, that is their business model. And I don't think anything sort of... I have to say, we've talked about disclaimers and stuff earlier about whether we're going to do them. This is a disclaimer. I'm not judging anybody that does that. It's just not for me. But what really hams it home for me is that I'm seeing, or in my experience, I was seeing people saying, "Oh, I'm not just here for hookups." And I'm not being rude, but the pose and the picture that this person had on their profile was sexually suggestive, very sexually suggestive. That's fine. Maybe you're not, but you have to understand that person or these people, or the app that use that have to understand there is a conceit with Tinder that is not expected, because no one should expect to go on Tinder and I'm going to go on Tinder for a hookup, and that's an expectation. But they also have to accept that if you're using Tinder, you may come across that at some point, at a minimum.
Yeah, I mean, different things for different people. There's a saying there. I can't get to
different strokes for different folks.
There we go. Absolutely, I'm not judging it, but I think that is what the reputation for Tinder now is. So yeah, going on it with any expectations other than that, you are likely in for a bit of disappointment or a bit more hard work, essentially. I'm not saying it's not possible to find someone who's also interested in something long-term, or you start out as a hookup, or you start out as friends with benefits or something like that, and it develops into something else. But, it's clearly leading with the sexual hookup component more so than OkCupid for sure.
And you're right, they have gamified it. I don't think anything sort of puts a punctuation on that more than if you get these people, and this has been a joke in the Big Bang Theory. It's like, oh, what about when you swipe the wrong way? And it goes, I'll let you know when I do. So people just swipe, and if you have like I don't know if this is true, but you have like a maximum swipe limit a day, and you can buy more swipes. If you buy like premium.
I've never met my swipe limit, even though I would probably have the swipe limit.
I'm not sure if this is a thing. This is just what
else.
I've been told. So if you, I think you've got so many swipes a day, and then you've got
For no or for yes, because I'm sure I would have met my no swipe.
I think it's just for yes.
That makes sense.
So that that people just go just there, just like swiping. Like it doesn't matter who it is.
Yeah.
And what they do is
because, but see, you say people, I say men. I'm pretty sure that men swipe yes on everything and women swipe no on the majority of things. So the men, again, this is the 80-20% coming in there. So the men are just seeing like, let's just see if anybody matches with me. Let's just cast a net wide. Whereas the women go, let's cast a net narrow. And so the Venn diagram of where those two meet becomes ever so small.
I did a little bit of research not on that particular point, but on the mechanics of swiping, and what I was just because before the episode, get a bit of research in there, got to do my homework. What they actually do is Tinder themselves put adverts in every like 20th swipe.
Oh yeah. Okay, Cupid does that as well.
When you swipe, you are like whatever you're doing, thumbs upping that advert, and they get a lot of ad revenue for that as well, because that that's like a ping, that's a okay, that's a yes. And if someone's just going swipe, they have no idea they've done that, but they're generating this ad click revenue for Tinder.
Okay. Yeah, no. Okay, Cupid has like adverts for itself, like upgrade to see who liked you.
Oh no, nothing like that. These are actually
but Tinder just has actual ads,
third party,
like third party ads
that don't pop up with anything, so you're not even aware that you've done it. It's just there. It's just so as far as the person's concerned, they've just swiped past another profile.
Okay. Well, I mean, I have no research to back this up, but from what I understand, it's more heavily men who swipe yes on everything.
I can believe that.
And less heavily women who swipe yes on everything. Even though, but obviously, that then actually means, when you do get a match, it might actually be meaningful, I guess.
Yeah, I guess. What I mean, just on that point, with Tinder, with the swiper mechanic, obviously that's now sort of grown into different apps. Now, you probably are fully aware of this, but you do realize that most of these apps are owned by the same company.
Yes.
Which is obviously the Match Group, Match.com.
Yeah.
Hence, I can totally see why they're trying to, in some ways, homogenize a lot of it. But what, to their credit, they are kind of sort of creating a little buffet so people can have this type of app, that type of app. People can choose what they want, but slowly but surely there's certain, at least as far as I know, have the mechanics, certain things that they feel would be beneficial to their business model, I guess, have found their way into other apps.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, while we're on the subject, let's talk about Match, which is obviously still around, and is, in the background, the big player behind lots of these apps. I only ever created a profile on Match once.
Same.
I think.
Same.
And I think I may have even made the mistake of paying for like 3 months of it or something, and it was such a waste of time. Oh my God, were there so many boxes to fill in for a profile? I mean, it was just such a waste of time. There was hardly any room to actually write anything on your profile, because most of it was tick boxes of some sort of description, where I was like, well, I don't want to choose my potential partner based on how many checks on a checklist they tick. So yeah, obviously I think they were one of the first ones who obviously had the percentage as well, which filters into OkCupid as well. But I just found that match percentage on there absolutely meaningless. Because there are things where, like, in isolation, I might choose A over B, but if I met someone and really liked them, A and B might not matter at all. Do you know what I mean?
But to some people, it may to some profiles, should I say, it may hold a bigger weight in terms of the matching. I guess I don't know if that's the case now. I like you, I literally created one profile. I don't think I ever had any meaningful connections with anybody. I was on there for, I think, probably about a month. And it just felt very, I don't know, it just, that felt like the first dating site I ever went on that felt specifically designed to take my money.
Yeah.
That and eHarmony, which we'll get onto later.
We'll get on, so just for completion's sake, I've brought this up now. So the Match Group owns obviously Match.com. It also owns OkCupid. It also owns Tinder. It also owns Plenty of Fish.
Yep.
And it also owns Hinge, which is an app that we can talk about next as well. And then a bunch of other ones that I think are a little bit less well-known or probably more niche. Things like Black People Meet, BLK,
Yes.
Chisma, Lexa NL, Love Scout 24, Our Time, Pairs. Some of these are also seem to be Neu.de, seems to be German. Par Perfecto might be Spanish or Portuguese, something like that. So anyway, Match Group, owns all the ones
They
that I
own
already
dating.
mentioned. Yeah. Which interestingly enough, as we said, okay, so Match.com came up with the matching percentage and to some degree, I guess, the swiping in Tinder. Hinge, the app that they also own, specifically designed to not have any swiping. So again, it's an app that's in their catalog that they acquired. So Hinge wasn't an app that Match themselves developed. They acquired it later on, but they have so far made no effort to change Hinge to also use the swiping mechanism.
But that's sensible from their business model, because obviously everyone's probably, for everyone that's jaded by swiping, well then why we need to get this other slice of the market, I guess. That would make sense.
Well, I mean, honestly, I don't really see the big deal about it, because at the bottom, like in your bottom left corner on Hinge, you still have an X, which is essentially swiping no. So,
it's kind of there.
Same
then.
difference.
Yeah, okay.
You tap a button. But obviously the way that Hinge generally works is, as opposed to OkCupid, where you're encouraged to write long things, Hinge has profile prompts, essentially. So from quite a long, big gallery of prompts, you choose one and then you fill it in. So it could be your favorite travel memory, or a recent shower thought you had, or your most controversial opinion, or something like that. Which, and obviously you have the standard things that you can fill in of your age, whether you want kids, have kids, pets, whether you drink, or what your diet is, what your religion is, blah, blah, blah. All those are tick boxes underneath your profile. Yeah. But then you just have I think it's up to 3 prompts on your profile, and as many pictures as you want. And then people can like a picture or like an answer to a prompt that you gave, and they can also react to it, send you a little message, react to a shower thought or something. So yeah, for example, on my Hinge profile, yes, I am on Hinge, try to find me. A recent shower thought I had, it says, I don't like pina coladas or getting caught in the rain. So yeah.
Oh, FYI, I love Puff. 55 is her profile name. Okay. I'm going to create a profile. I'm going to create a profile of that name just to see how many people track it down. I do not take that seriously. She does not love Puff. There is no profile by that name.
So yeah, one of the things that I actually realized recently, because I made a nice match on Hinge, is that you can actually call people in the app. Which I didn't actually know was possible. So once you've matched with somebody in their chat, at the top there is an option to call them or to even video call them.
Okay.
Which actually I think is quite nice, because it prevents you having to share your phone numbers.
Okay.
So you can call each other in the app, and that still doesn't commit you to giving out private information like your phone number, or you could break the ice essentially with this guy. We kind of said, like, actually, should we have a phone call? Because we seem to be getting on quite well, but it was quite a bit of a distance for traveling. He suggested, let's have a phone call before we actually set up a date and go through all the effort.
Idea. I absolutely love that idea, because for somebody like me, as you will find out in the coming 9 decades that we're going to do this podcast, I'm just committing to it now. Hey, you got to stay alive now. I'm sorry, Phoebe, you have to stay alive. Yes, we will do this. Is that I have really weird anxiety, social anxiety, that sort of stuff, and I always like to know as much about a person as I can, not in a creepy way, just in a breaking the ice kind of way. I like to know, enough about them, that I could get on with them, I can talk to them. I usually prefer to have maybe a phone call, or at least chat to somebody a little bit before I meet them for a quote-unquote a first date, because if I don't, I am just completely useless, because my chaotic energy, I was like, blah, I'm just very much in your face, not in your face in a horrible way, just very, because I'm trying to come to terms with trying to get to know this person in the initial sense, but then also trying to deal with the whole, let's be honest, the nerves of a first date.
Yeah. No, I definitely am very pro let's have a call first, even though generally speaking I hate phone calls.
Yeah.
But that's mainly because I can struggle with accents and understanding them over the phone. As you can tell from my accent, I am not British. And so some British accents can be a bit challenging for
Are
me.
you not? Oh, God.
Oh God, yeah,
mind blown.
So yeah, that is really nice. But actually, that does bring me on to one of the like bolted-on mechanics that Plenty of Fish have as well. On Plenty of Fish, you can go live. Essentially, you can live stream yourself.
Yeah.
And I had a little gander at looking at it yesterday, and oh dear Lord. I mean, you no longer need Twitch for your little, thirsty women on there. Just go on Plenty of Fish Live and you'll find plenty of scantily clad females streaming themselves.
Well, I have a friend who is still dating, an acquaintance. Sorry, not going to name names. And his whole thing is that he does stream, and he's told me there are a lot of profiles on there where it's literally, I am just here to stream. Yeah. Not there to meet people, just there to stream. That to me just blows my mind completely.
I mean, I suppose it's an alternative. It's easier maybe than streaming on Twitch or YouTube or something like that. I don't know what the terms of service are on Plenty of Fish, so how much you're allowed to show or not show.
I probably would say they probably do have some stringent certain things. You can't cross lines, you can't cross. They would have to have that, because if they didn't, it would have turned into, chatterbait or something like that very quickly.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's clearly, as you've just said, it's clearly evident that people are using that as a platform for, I'm not going to say, because let's be honest, we live in this age. I've done streaming and do streaming when I can. We are living in this age where everybody wants to be a content creator, sort of. It's very saturated. But for a lot of people, all they want to do is just get noticed and get likes and get famous. Not everybody, in fact, a very, very large percentage of people aren't really, that's not really their main focus. But if people want to do that, fine, that's up to them. But obviously with Puff, that is now, because it's a dating site, there's guaranteed footfall there, there's traffic, there's views there, isn't there?
I guess, I mean, if you look at it, I mean, I literally only kind of found out about it 2-3 weeks ago that was a thing. I just double checked, and you can actually call in the app on Plenty of Fish as well. So similar to Hinge, you can't on OkCupid. So that's probably a nice thing as well. But yeah, I mean, good luck to them. I think it kind of detracts from what the original purpose of Plenty of Fish was. So now it's kind of a miasma of a lot of different things.
It sounds like it's a smelting pot of every idea from every other side, but kind of not implemented to its fullest. It's just like, we'll just go, and then it's kind of not the bar. It's basically, that looks like the bar that every other dating app sends their bastard children to sort of make friends. Everything's there at once, but it's never quite fully integrated as it is in, say, Tinder or OkCupid.
Yeah,
or Hinge.
I mean, the whole design of the site as well, just looks a little bit bish bosh.
The main selling point for me for Puff, way back when, and for a lot of people, it was one at the time. It was one of the few large scale but free dating apps. It was monetized, but not to the nth degree. So a lot of the monetization back then was about, being able to see likes and stuff and having a prettier profile, a longer profile, and that was about it, for at least as far as I can remember. But the general sending messages back and forth, all that kind of jazz was still there. It was very generic, but I guess now, because it was popular and it's well known, because it was the free one, they've kind of used it now as it's I wouldn't say it's the biggest dating app, obviously it's not, but it seems to be the one, as far as I can tell, that they use as their test chamber, I guess.
Yeah, they just throw everything in the kitchen sink at it and see what sticks and what rises to the top. It kind of feels a bit like that to me. Just the least polished of them, really. Doesn't really know what it wants to be.
Okay, so inbox insanity time. And what this would mean, or should I say will be, is we will both... Oh, God, I can't believe we're doing this. We'll both have to share recollections of, or verbatim, if we can, terrible messages, experiences of getting messages. Some dumb, some offensive, some insane, just some completely bat crap out of the box. Whatever. This is our forum to do this.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to be completely insane or offensive messages.
It could be anything, but
this one isn't necessarily weird, as in just a prime example of the horrible online abuse that females sometimes have to put up with online. So we talked about it earlier, Plenty of Fish. The thing that you do is underneath your profile picture, you put a tiny little prompt. I think it can be 50 characters or something like that.
Oh, is that a thing?
And yeah. And because I had literally received so many messages that were absolutely annoying, I put something like, I won't respond to hi, how are you messages. Something of that regard, which I realize is not super friendly, but I just thought I'd put that out there because I was getting too many of them. So this guy, I will not shame and name him, takes it upon himself to message me and to say, wow, what a friendly profile. Well, having checked out, or what a friendly introduction, having checked out your profile, that's about what I would expect from a liberal lefty. You're a solid 2 out of 10.
Oof.
And I thought, okay, why do you feel the need to go out of your way to make somebody else's life miserable and spew abuse like that? You could have just swiped no and left me alone. But no, instead, you took it upon yourself to hit the message button and put me down. I then looked at his profile, and based on everything I saw there, I was like, yeah, you know what, mate? You're a -10 out of 20. Not to say that he wasn't kind of good looking in the traditional sense, but everything on his profile was superficial to the max, and he was clearly just after hookups. So yeah, that is the loveliness that you sometimes have to put up with as a female on some of these dating apps. So isn't that nice? Waking up to an inbox like that.
Well, on that note, I have had probably one of the few where someone's messaged me first. Similar sort of thing. I think this was my OkCupid profile, which back then was, if I do say so myself, was quite extensive. I did subsequently edit it down a little bit. I'm a nerd. I'm a geek. This is not news to anyone that knows me. And I got a very, I wouldn't say hateful, but a very sort of finger waggy message. Someone saying, oh God, why are you putting all of that on your profile? This is how I, this is my points of view voice. This is how I would imagine they would sound. Why are you putting that on your profile? Oh, so you like collecting nerdy stuff? I would never have such things in my living room. If you're on a dating profile, maybe you should, dating site, maybe you should put a little bit more generalized stuff. Don't mention how much you love your cat. That's really gay, that is. Like, what?
Oh, jeez.
So you're basically trying to give me pseudo how to write my profile tips while insulting me, but also making a homophobic slur. And
what purpose does that
And you
serve?
spent probably a good 10 minutes writing that message. What a waste of your time.
And reading your entire profile as well, which presumably must have taken, a bit of time, and then investing more of your lifetime. And this is like hate tweeting or like, anger Facebooking and stuff like that, doomsday scrolling and all that. I think sometimes, anger can be, or annoyance can be such an overpowering thing that rather than walk away, we need to actually vent somehow. But how do you not have the self-control to not do that to the person you're venting about? Just turn around and say to your friend, oh, can you believe this guy? Do you know what I mean? Because then it's still hateful, but at least you're not telling it to that. This is exactly the keyboard warrior problem, because you are somewhat anonymous still on the app, so you feel entitled to to share your opinion, and you'd never even consider that there's an actual human being on the other side.
No, that's
who needs to read that abuse.
Absolutely. And I think also it's few and far between for me, but I think what we should do is we should also maybe share a positive one, or one that you found positive. I don't know, maybe not necessarily somebody that you ended up dating or even seeing, but I don't know, maybe a positive one. I do have a good one. I believe this was proto OkCupid, so this is way back when. This is 2010 OkCupid, which still kind of had the matching mechanics, but it was very new. I sent somebody a message, and she messaged back and said, I don't think we'll get along. I don't think we'd necessarily get along on dates and stuff, but I just wanted to say I've read your profile. The bit that you put about mental health was really inspiring, and the quotes that you put there, I put a couple of Gandhi quotes, some Wayne quotes, and she genuinely said nice things about the things I put on my profile. So that's really lovely, and I think that's really nice, and that has actually sort of made me smile. Good luck, whatever. Whether she was being disingenuous, I don't know, but on the flip side, she also took the time to send that reply, which must have taken 10 minutes of her time. So cool.
Yeah, no, that's really lovely, and I can respond to that maybe in a similar vein, in the sense that I don't mean this at all to blow my own trumpet or anything like that, but I was recently on holiday outside of my city up in Scotland, and obviously some of these apps automatically use your location essentially. I was showing these apps to my friend who's been in a relationship and married for a really long time, and she was just interested because she had never been on the apps, and she was a bit like, "Ooh, can I have a look?" And so I was going through some profiles, and I saw one from a man who I thought, oh, he sounds actually really nice. It's a really nice profile. Unfortunately, obviously, he lives all the way up here. I'm down in the East Midlands. I don't really fancy a long distance relationship, but you know what? I'll take the time and message him and say, you know what, you sound really cool. I responded to these and these things in your profile. Hope you're having a fantastic day. I'm only up here for holiday. And he did get back and say, wow, that's really nice. Hope you have a really great time while you're on your holiday up here in Scotland. So nice. And that's a really positive response. Nothing else will come from this. We have unmatched each other, but it was just nice. I just wanted to tell him, hey, you look cool. Have a good day. So yeah, sometimes
little bit of sugar to end on. I do absolutely love that. No, that is good, and I think we can. Well, in terms of dating sites, there is a lot of negativity that can be attached to them, and with good reason. But also, stories like that do sort of hammer home, and stories that we will tell in later episodes, later conversations. There are a lot of very positive things as well, and it's really cool.
Yeah, I think one of the main things to take away from your positive and my positive story is that, if it takes you 10 minutes off your day to spread a little bit of kindness and good vibes, go do it, people, because we need more of that. But anyway, so we already spoke about plenty of fish. So Match.com we also mentioned. So those are pretty much the biggest ones that are all owned by the Match Group. One other big one that we should probably then also mention is Bumble.
Never used it. Never used Bumble.
Which is independent, so that's not owned by the Match Group. It is female-led. It's founded by females. It is mainly employees are mainly female, if not all female. Don't quote me on that. They recently gave all employees 1 week off for mental health reasons, so everyone could recover, because obviously in the pandemic, these dating apps and their staff have been working overtime. That's nice. Yeah, and generally the whole design is female-centric. And I guess, kind of that touches back on that trend that we said earlier of women sometimes being overwhelmed with unwanted messages in lots of these apps, even if they had matched with someone, even if I did match with somebody on Tinder or OkCupid, that isn't necessarily meant to be an invitation to send me a lewd message right away, but some people do. So in Bumble, women must message first after matching, and you only have 24 hours to do that. So that kind of caters to that complaint that men often have of, please don't match and then never message, which obviously also happens. Yeah, my cat has complaints. She agrees. So if you match with somebody on Bumble, the female must message first, and you have 24 hours to do that. You can pay to rekindle a match, I think, after it expires. But so then, let's say the female has messaged, then the man has 24 hours to respond.
Interesting. Very interesting.
So yeah, that's how that works. And again,
or indeed ever.
Again, profiles are using prompts similar to Hinge, so rather than like the long form essay of OkCupid. And interestingly enough, Bumble also has a friendship mode, so you can switch between dating or friendship. So in that sense, you can also use it for networking.
Is that because obviously on this is quite an important question. Is that like other dating sites where people can specifically say I'm looking for friends, but it's not a big thing? It's not identified. Is it very identifiable? That's what it is. Like, is there a change?
No, it's very identified.
Is there different options, kind of stuff?
Yeah, it's you literally have to go into your profile settings, change it, blah 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 blah. And then it shows you different people.
Got it.
So it literally will then only show you.
So it's not vague like some dating sites deliberately make it.
No. Deliberately, essentially switch to LinkedIn mode, kind of a thing.
Got it. That's really interesting.
Yeah. I've personally never used the friendship mode, but it could be interesting to look into. Yeah. So again, I mean, there is an about me section that you can fill in, and then obviously you can have all your pictures and things like that. But it doesn't tend to be the long form that OkCupid is. Lots of people keep it quite short, and the basic info is all like nice little icons.
No, I like that idea about the friendship thing, because I think I've just got a great idea for. I mean, maybe we've already put it down as future episodes, but a great idea for some future content is the concept of friendship with people you've met on dating sites, that kind of stuff. That would be an interesting episode. So that does sound really cool. That is kind of a literal, deliberate switch almost in there.
Yeah,
that it is.
Yeah, like I said, I haven't used it, but I am open to using it, and then reporting on my experience. But yeah, that's Bumble. That doesn't necessarily mean that the quality of people on Bumble are any better or worse or whatnot. But yeah,
it just sounds more interesting. It sounds different. It sounds different enough and conscious enough.
In the sense also that sometimes it makes me as a female quite conscious of, do I actually want to swipe yes? Because if I do, then the onus to send a message is on me.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? And sometimes I'm like, oh, I just swipe yes because he sounded kind of nice, but I'm not actually so interested that I do want to send a message. But you know, it's
yes. But yeah. I think, let's be honest. We lamenting the whole swipe thing, the like thing. That's. But let's be honest. I think even with outside of dating, any kind of website or experience that does that, we are conditioned to think a certain way of. Oh, that's kind of, like putting a bookmark on something we see that we like. We may not go back to that.
I'll come back to it later.
We are conditioned, social media, whatever, to think that way, and that's nothing new. That's why they are designed the way they are designed. They know this, and they tailor to that.
Yeah, exactly. This is kind of segue, but this is also why, generally speaking, I'm a bit in two minds about whether or not I trust these dating apps at all, because surely, their income is predicated upon the fact of keeping all of their users using these apps. So are they really actually trying to help me find someone, or are they actually just trying to keep me coming back? And never find someone.
I think it's a case of it's a balancing act for some of them, because sometimes, yes, they do. Because if let's just say you're a person that goes on Tinder looking for a hookup. That's all you want to do, or you're somebody that maybe gets into a few short-term relationships. If you have a good experience doing that, you are more likely to go back to that app. So they kind of have to leverage that against how likely are you to never come back,
Say if you're on an OkCupid and, your main thing is to try and find a long-term relationship, which then lasts 2 years. Yeah. So yeah, maybe I'd go like, yeah, OkCupid was great 2 years ago. Would I go back to it? Maybe, but that's a 2-year gap in which you don't see me on that app. Yeah.
So that's why I think Match.com specifically, Match Group probably, obviously business. You have to kind of have your fingers in as many pies as possible. But probably the other reason is just that, because if they've got every corner of the market, the people that are going to come back are not going to come back. Doesn't matter to them. They've got the stranglehold on pretty much every aspect of it. So.
Yeah, very, very true. So let's move on to some of the other ones that we're also just want to mention.
eHarmony.
I guess
eHarmony.
We don't have to.
eHarmony. I did want to bring that up just because I don't want to go sort of too much into eHarmony because I didn't use it that much. But eHarmony, I was very cynical about it then, and I still am. They were a little bit silly, I think. I think it did them a disservice when they were trying to ham up how smart and technologically brilliant their matching algorithms. You know what I mean? Like they were kind of that was their biggest thing. We match people based on secret witchcraft methods of love and romance and compatibility, that kind of stuff. Not in that voice, but that's how I would have done the advert anyway. Of compatibility and stuff like that. And I guess I can get what they were trying to do in that. Even then, way back when, years ago, I'm talking like 2010 time. This is way back when. Even then, people were jaded with quote unquote the standard dating app. So even back then, the conceits and the commonalities and the things that people were getting sick of had come to the fore. So here comes eHarmony. Oh, but our algorithms are really good. We match you based on things you don't even know about and can't even fathom. That kind of stuff.
Yeah, I definitely remember eHarmony being one of the only apps I can remember seeing TV adverts for. And kind of trying to cater themselves quite a lot to kind of, let's say, the upper segment, because they were kind of saying like, oh, everything's verified and professional profiles, and we have this really magical algorithm, which is crap, because any algorithm is only as good as the data you feed it, and the data you feed it is always predicated upon what the user puts in there. And as we know from all the other 8 dating apps, there's lots of people who don't put a second thought into what data they feed into the algorithm.
Obviously then people manipulate it as well.
I cannot count on all the appendices I have on my body the number of men who are over 45 and put for children maybe one day. I'm like, well, that must be nice, mustn't it? To be 45 and be like, maybe one day.
Well.
Anyway, but just saying, if eHarmony kind of bombarded you with quite a lot of questions. So eHarmony had a lot of questions that you needed to answer up front, and I don't think everyone spent as much time answering really honestly. And plus, lots of things in life aren't black or white. They aren't yes or no. But lots of things were like binary choices, essentially. Yeah, I
agree.
So
I unfortunately, eHarmony, spoilers, you're not even going to even past or otherwise any of my favorite experiences with dating or indeed dating apps.
I've never used it. I think I set up a profile and then immediately deleted it because it was so annoying. I used
it for like a week and it was
yeah. So obviously we talked about all the big wigs. Now there's plenty of other apps out there. Some of them are more niche and cater to specific communities. So some of the ones that we didn't mention here are, for example, Grindr, catered to the homosexual community. Neither one of us have ever been on Grindr. It seems to be a little bit the Tinder of the gay community.
That is what I've heard, yes.
Hearsay. Then a bunch of others I've found. Coffee Meets Bagel, where you only get a certain set of you only get a certain set of matches once a day at 12 p.m. Things like Her, Snack, XO, Kippo, Once, Happen, Swoon Me, Badoo, Clover dating app. I haven't used any of these, so I'm not going to comment on them. The only kind of niche one that I do want to give little shout out to is Feeld, Feeld, because it's specifically catered to LGBTIQ plus and the kink community. So it's very sex positive. It's very ethical, non-monogamy positive, polyamory positive. Yeah. The app is a bit bug ridden, I have to admit.
Is it quite new? Is it quite a new one?
Relatively, yeah. They've been on a huge promotion bend kind of this last year. So you see ads for it popping up on certain podcasts, relationship podcasts and whatnot, where they're trying to filter people in. I am a little bit annoyed about their description in the app stores, because it literally kind of says, for bisexual women and couples, which makes it sound like unicorn hunting to all the poly people out there. They know that is a red hot button issue, and Feeld is actually much, much more than just that. So it's essentially,
doing a disservice, anybody who's...
Yes, it is doing it a complete disservice, because you can go on there, you can be straight, you can just be looking for a man, or you can be looking, it's just essentially more sex positive and queer positive. And a way to escape the, as I said, heteronormative hell. But so just to put that out there. But yeah, obviously there's tons and tons of dating apps, and we kind of focused on the big wigs a little bit of a hodgepodge. We jumped around a little bit. At the end of the day, I can only say that OkCupid is my favorite, but that's because it caters to my personality type, in the sense that I'm quite logical, I think about a lot of things. I don't approach a lot of things from a emotional perspective. So I guess like my choice of partners will be based on reading essays and essays and essays of profiles about them. So
No,
yeah.
I get that. For me, I have to, obviously my experiences vary across many years, different things, different mechanics, obviously updated, sites have updated over the years. From personal experience, I probably would have to agree with you. POF, at least early on, 2010-ish, even in 2017, was way more positive for me than it is now. It wasn't my favourite, but certainly from my experience as a man that just sees someone that I like, somebody in myself that I know will send a proper message, not going to be a creep, because why would I? Because it's not. My way of thinking is, whenever I send a message, I'm going to send a message to somebody. Am I going to get a response? If I feel I'm not going to get a response, I'm not going to bother messaging somebody because it's wasting my time, it's wasting their time. But OkCupid, what really spoke to me with that was the things that we discussed earlier with it's very inclusive, the way the profiles are laid out. I quite liked the matching mechanic, not so much the percentile range, because that was really off sometimes, but there were certain questions that the way people answered them, if they decided to give a detailed response, you couldn't figure them out per se, but you could kind of at least get a sense of their opinions on certain topics that you might find not deal breakers, but might be quite sensitive, or, they feel that way about that. I'm probably not going to get on that well,
Yeah, for example, if they said, would you date somebody super messy? And they said, absolutely not. And you know about yourself that you're super messy. You might think,
Yeah. Or would you vote for someone that, there was some very different, would you date somebody that was, that held, right-wing views about this, and this? Well, no, of course I wouldn't, because we just wouldn't get on,
Yeah. I mean, obviously there is also the segment on the profile where you can fill in your political affiliations, but not everybody does, of course. But
so OkCupid, in my experience back then, I met some wonderful people on there, and there will be some interesting stories about that later on. Well, hey, no, nothing like that.
Stay tuned. Yeah, no, obviously our experience will always trickle down into everything we talk about. And yes, most of the people who I've met through dating apps have also been through OkCupid. So all in all, our personal winner. But obviously, as we said throughout, and we should reiterate, we're not endorsed by any of these apps. We don't judge anyone for using any of them or preferring any of them. By the way, we forgot to mention Facebook dating, but yes, it's a thing. Don't do it. Trust me, I've tried it. Don't do it. It's all the worst parts of Facebook. With no improvements, essentially. But yeah, we don't endorse any of these apps. We don't judge anyone who uses them, as long as you're clear about your intentions. Go forth, be merry, and hopefully, you'll find what you're looking for.
Well, you say we're not endorsed by any. Just want to segue in now. For one time only now, for $2.99 on... No, I'm just kidding. No, absolutely true. OkCupid is mine.
I mean, obviously, you shout out, because if any of these apps do want to sponsor this podcast, do get in touch. I mean, especially since we've given you such glowing reviews.
I'm going to throw a ka-ching sound in there somewhere.
Here comes the money.
Here we go. Money talk.
Here comes the money. Money, dollar.
Okay, and that's about it. Thank you very much for listening. Of course, this is the pilot episode, so normally this would be the moment that we would plug the socials, which unfortunately we don't quite have yet, but we are going to get them set up soon. But in the meantime, please like and subscribe on wherever you get your podcasts, and whatever platform we choose to drop these podcasts on. Hopefully there will be more to come soon. A release schedule will be drawn up. We do promise that. We do want to get regular content out there. So in the meantime, stay safe, and of course, always be kind to each other.
Don't do anything I wouldn't do.